Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. Topping news tonight, Works and Utilities Minister Alfred Sayers taking the floor in Parliament today to outline Bahamas Power and Light's dire financial position. Speaking candidly, Sayers says they are on the edge of the financial cliff. The minister gave the explanation as he outlined why power bills will be increasing next month.
BPL is on the precipice of financial fallout, Mr. Deputy, if we do not act immediately to align the fuel charge with current global prices.
On Monday, Prime Minister Philip Davis announced consumers will see an increase in their November power bills. Given the state of the power company's finances, Sayers says the move can no longer be delayed. He says the fuel hedging strategy implemented under the former administration was no longer an option.
Within the last 12 months, fuel costs have increased globally at an astounding rate due to the global economic and political shocks. In fact, the fuel used to generate electricity now, which is the diesel, the majority fuel being used by BPL today, has increased within this past year by 100%.
Now, the increase of the monthly power bills not sitting well with opposition. They are accusing the Davis administration of breaking their promise to keep the cost of electricity down. Jamila Mizik has that angle.
Former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis not mincing words regarding the government's announcement that BPL customers will soon see an increase in power bills. Dr. Minnis says his administration had a plan to reduce the cost of electricity for Bahamians, adding that the Davis administration failed to continue on with the hedging program left in place by the F&M government.
We had a hedging program in place so that we locked in, we had a rolling hedge, so that we locked in fuel at certain costs. And that brought the power bill down by 50, in some instances 60%. You review your bill, you would see it. So there was a plan. Our plan was hedging. Our plan was a new power station and LNG. The Prime Minister they have no plan.
Opposition leader Michael Pintard also weighing in on the announcement of a rate increase. He says the Davis administration failed to lower the cost of electricity during their first 100 days in office, as mentioned in their blueprint for change.
They had all of the documents. The documents are in finance. The advice that they were given was to move in continuing the trades. Their failure to do so has caused a 163% increase that the Prime Minister has just laid on the Bahamian people. The working class Bahamians, middle class Bahamians will suffer most.
Pintard is calling on Prime Minister Davis to come clean about what he calls a few inconsistencies, which he says is concerning. One of them, the government's plan to amend the Electricity Act by changing the regulations.
You cannot set different rates for different categories of consumers. When you pass through the cost of fuel, it has to be consistent across all categories, working class, middle class, businesses as well. What we believe that the government is seeking to do is to recover that subsidy that the Prime Minister has been putting in place.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
Thanks for that report, Jamila. Now, given the grim outlook from the Works and Utilities Minister, Prime Minister Davis says there's no need to worry about BPL's financial stability while he's at the helm. Davis also responding to the outrage following the announcement of the hike in BPL bills. He says while he understands Bahamians are concerned, he says the move to hike up prices is strategic.
Totally concerned about it, and plans are in place to address the issues. You'll find that saturation patrol is out there. We think that the numbers may have been much more had the initiatives that the new Commissioner Police will not put in place. If you go out there, you'll see it, and there's a lot of disruptions that have been occurring over the last couple of months. In fact, we've heard cries about the disruptive nature of the police and and cries of civil liberties perhaps being trampled upon, which we don't think it is, but those are some of the things being said. But I think the disruptive intervention by police officers on the weekends in particular have been working.
Now, the decision to increase power bills comes as many Bahamians are still grappling with global inflation. Earlier this year, Davis said an increase in power bills would be a last resort. Today, the Prime Minister says that the company is at that point.
What I said in respect to BPL specifically, that there will be a last resort.
Former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis also chastising the Prime Minister for implementing an increase in some taxes, such as real property tax. He believes Davis is adding to the inflation crisis.
The businesses will also suffer. They will have an increased cost, which means they run the possibility of laying off individuals. The restaurants, the food costs at restaurants will increase. The mom and pop shops will increase. This Prime Minister, we cannot believe when he said that there'll be no tax increase, but real property tax increase, mortgages increase as a result of what he has done, fuel charge increase, so electricity bills has increased as a result of what he has done. He cannot be trusted.
Business owners are reacting to the BPL rate increase. Our Megan Shepard visited several businesses on the island today where owners opened up about how it will impact their operations.
We only have one power company. Why dominate the people by increasing the light bill?
Beginning next month, residents and business owners can expect to pay more each month. A day after the rate hike was announced, I spoke to several business owners and operators who say they were not surprised by the move.
The price of oil has been increasing. We've seen it at the pump with our cars, and it wasn't being shown in our BC bills. So I knew at some point they would have to either get their money back.
When I saw the bills from like January, February, I was like, wow, it's like very cheap, like very low. So I know summer's around the corner, summer has already passed. So I said, I'm sure they're going to increase.
So I was expecting it to go, but not as high as it went, and not as quick.
These women say all signs pointed to an increase, given the fact that inflation is impacting all sectors. Based on that, they've been in preparation mode.
Several of the coolers I discontinued in anticipation that there would be some increase.
For the past 3 months, I've seen that an increase every month. It went from like 300, 400, 500.
Now, despite not being caught totally off guard, these business owners say now is not the time for a price hike.
It's almost like taxes. It's never a good time to pay bills, you know. You just have to take a look at it and see what's happening.
It should have been dealt with, considered at a later period in the year, maybe next year, and give people more time in terms of how they went about that.
And the question on the minds of consumers, will this additional cost now be the burden of customers?
But I will not pass on my BPL or any other expenses to my customer. I don't do that.
Sometimes you'll have to basically pass it on to consumers, but at this time, I don't want to.
The last thing we tried to do was pass on any costs. We'll look at it, we'll see how we can adjust and make the adjustments and just move forward.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Thanks, Megan. An Englishman who punched a BPL worker who came to turn off his light has pleaded guilty to causing harm. 58-year-old Stephen Akers of Palatial Estates, Paradise Island, struck Gabriel Gordon in the right eye and forehead while he tried to access the meter box at his condominium on October 3rd. However, Gordon fought back and held Akers in a judo hold until police arrived. A picture of the incident went viral earlier this week, showing the two men struggling on the ground. Akers was arrested and charged with causing harm. He admitted the offense at his arraignment before Senior Magistrate Darren Roll Davis and was fined $1,200 and ordered to pay $500 in compensation to Gordon. Akers has paid the money, and the magistrate has ordered him to leave the country in 24 hours at his own expense. A clear evening outside the Our News studios tonight. Meteorologist Greg Thompson has the latest from the Weather Center. Greg?
Thanks, Natalia, and welcome everybody for our look at weather on this beautiful Wednesday evening. Outside our studios right now, temperatures are in the low 80s, 82 degrees on the mostly clear skies. North winds at 9 miles per hour and your feels-like temperature at 80 degrees. On our satellite, frontal boundary across the southeast Bahamas basically washing out. Most of the activity is pulling out towards the east and away from us. But there's a reinforcing front across the northwest Bahamas, not much in terms of any clouds associated with it, but enough to keep us with a little bit of moisture, a couple of isolated showers expected with that as that system continues to push towards the south throughout the night and into tomorrow. That's a look at our weather. Stick with us. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, an accountant accused of stealing Red Cross vouchers to stand trial, plus what the Prime Minister plans to do to cut crime in the country. And enough is still enough. Teachers today taking their protest to Parliament. That's coming up when Our News returns. An accountant who worked at the Red Cross is accused of stealing SuperValue gift certificates intended for the needy for his personal use. 54-year-old Sean Brennan Sr. of Peaks Close, Leeward East, faced 12 counts of stealing by reason of employment at his arraignment before Magistrate Kendra Kelly today. Prosecutors say over an 8-month period from April 2021 to November 2021, Brennan stole gift certificates valued at $8,815. Brennan has denied the charge and a trial is set for January 17, 2023. In the interim, he's been freed on $7,000 bail. As the country records triple-digit murders for the year, the nation's chief says plans are underway to curb the trend. 3 murders were recorded over the weekend. The Prime Minister says saturation patrols are ongoing.
Totally concerned about it, and plans are in place to address the issues. You'll find that saturation patrol is out there. We think that the numbers may have been much more at the initiatives that the new commission police will not put in place. You go out there and you see it, and there's a lot of disruptions that have been occurring over the last couple of months. In fact, we've heard cries about the disruptive nature of the police and cries of civil liberties perhaps being trampled upon, which we don't think it is, but those are some of the things being said. But I think the disruptive intervention by police officers on the weekends in particular have been working.
The time for talk and political posturing is over, and the time to act now when it comes to the fight against crime. Free National Movement Deputy Leader Shannon Cartwright giving that assessment when he was asked about his recommendations on addressing the issue.
So what the Bahamian people are very concerned about, that as it relates to crime, that they see more optics than tactics. And so, again, we call upon the government to let us get together. We have made recommendations, as I would have said, the opposition has.
The murder count stands at 104. The most recent murder occurred just yesterday during a shocking daytime shooting when a passenger reportedly shot a bus driver as he was exiting a bus on Robinson Road. As for what's behind the spike, police have said many of the murders are gang-related. And that's not the only worry for residents, as there have also been a string of armed robberies across the island. He insists the opposition should not be shut out of the conversation.
We are willing to be a part of the conversation to come up with the solutions, but the government must lead in this regard.
When Our News comes back from the break, the Teachers Union president pushing for a resolution to issues at a primary school.
All right, Natalia, plus coming up in sports for you tonight, we'll tell you how the Hitmen putting on a lot of hits as they take care of business in the New Providence Softball Association men's division, and on the ladies' side, the RAB operators also moving through to the championship. That's all coming up in sports.
school campus to the office of the Prime Minister and now the House of Assembly. Teachers from the Thelma Gibson Primary School taking their protest to Parliament after getting no resolution from the Prime Minister on Tuesday. Teachers want the school's principal removed over an alleged altercation. Heavy police presence guarded the House of Assembly, which was in session this morning. However, that would not stop the group from holding placards and chanting "Solidarity Forever." Bahamas Union of Teachers President Belinda Wilson, who was also with the group, says she was unable to speak to the Prime Minister this morning. She says she's determined to have the matter resolved quickly. Ministry of Education Permanent Secretary Lorena Ambrister has said the matter is now with the Director of Labor, who will determine the way forward. The local softball playoffs heating up with two teams punching their tickets to the championship on Tuesday night. Marcellus Hall is up now with a check on sports.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to Our Sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. The New Province Softball Association playoffs starting to heat up big time. Last night, a couple of teams looking to make their way into the championship rounds. Two other teams trying to stay alive. Let's take a quick look at the men's matchup first up. Feature game last night. New Province Softball Association playoffs continuing. Semifinals. Hitmen taking on the Chances Mighty Mitts. Let's just say this thing was a bit lopsided. Hitmen living up to their name, and they tagged together a lot of hits and a lot of runs. And they go on to close the series out. Moving on to the next round, 17-0 ends up being the final score. It actually ends up in a no-hitter with one walk in the evening for the pitching staff, but a dominating offensive performance. Hitmen taking care of business in 4 innings. Earlier in the day, the UB Mingos women's softball team coming into the game against the Operators, hoping to start fresh. Game 2 of the best-of-3 semifinals was rained out on Saturday gone. Mingos were down 1-0 in the series. Operators came out strong, went up very quickly, a 4-0 lead in the top of the first. Mingos defense was not working for them, but offensively the team able to chip into the lead. Mingos bats come to life in the 5th inning. They cut the lead to 11-6. They were able to respond to 6 to get it to a 15-9 deficit. But just running out of time here, the Operators eliminate the Mingos. 15-9 ends up being the final score. They win the series 2-0. Head coach Shane Aubrey says the same problem that's been plaguing the team all season came back once again to haunt them.
Something that's plagued us for a while. I think we had the pitching for a better part of the game. Defense kind of gave in tonight, as we can tell by the other team scoring 15 runs. We weren't consistent as we needed to be with respect to scoring runs. We came on a bit too late, but we weren't able to sustain it.
That is your look at sports for you here on this Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on Our News tonight, mostly sunny skies in the extended weather outlook, and how you can get up close and personal with the Lucayans of the Bahamas. That's coming up when Our News returns. Welcome back to Our News. What do your teeth have to do with cancer? Well, it may be a lot more than you think. The president of the Bahamas Dental Association tells us why you may want to get that checkup this month. Christina Dragovich fills us in.
There is a correlation between certain oral conditions and the development of breast cancer. The ADA says, and other research says, that women who have periodontal disease are 11 times at risk of developing breast cancer.
Bahamas Dental Association President Dr. Shamika Strawn says your dental checkup may do more than scope out new cavities, especially if you notice bad breath and wiggly teeth that may be an indicator that something isn't right.
One thing many patients complain about is that their teeth look a lot longer. their teeth start to space a lot more. So they would complain that I didn't have this space here before, my teeth are becoming spacey.
Last year, the Bahamas Dental Association hosted free oral cancer screening and cleanings for breast cancer fighters. This year, they're taking it a step further to make a bigger impact.
And 12 practices have agreed to come on board this year to provide free oral evaluations for breast cancer survivors.
Dr. Strawn says the mouth is a good indicator of your overall health, and cancer fighters and survivors may notice changes to their teeth during cancer treatment.
Because there are several complications that could arise from cancer therapy, whether it be chemotherapy or radiation therapy.
The doctor's advice? Pick up the floss and book an appointment. Visit Bahamas Dental Association on Facebook to find a participating practice. Reporting for Our News, I'm Christina Dragovich.
Thanks, Christina. A chance of showers as we get over the midweek hump. Meteorologist Greg Thompson has your extended weather outlook. Greg?
Thanks again, Natalia, and welcome back, everybody, for a final look at weather. The tropics, we got two systems out there we're continuing to monitor. One out there in the open Atlantic, which is now Tropical Depression 12. It's sitting out there in the open Atlantic just to the west of the Cabo Verde Islands. Not really going to do much. It's going to continue to track towards the northwest and stay in the open waters. Not a concern for us. But there's a broad area of showers and disorganized thunderstorms associated with a tropical wave that's moving across the Windward Islands. It's expected to continue to track towards the west. High pressure to the north will keep that at bay. But its interaction with landmass will allow it to be slow in development. But it's anticipated that once it gets into the Western Caribbean Sea, it should get into an area that's favorable for development. National Hurricane Center giving that a very high chance for formation. So Saturday through next Monday, we expect possibly another named storm out there in the Caribbean Sea, and it should run into Central America. Boating forecast for the northwest Bahamas tonight to tomorrow. Small craft, use some caution. Those swells are still with us. Northeast to east winds at 15 knots, seas running 3 to 5 feet. Your low tide will be at 11:26 tonight. For the central and southeast Bahamas, northeast to east winds at 10 to 15 knots. Wave heights will be running 2 to 4 feet over open waters. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your 7-day forecast, off and on showers expected through tomorrow, and then we get a little bit of a break, but another front boundary should get near sometime by the weekend, so we could see an increase in some shower activity, and then by next week, conditions rather improving. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe evening, everybody.
Thanks, Greg. Next week, the Antiquities, Monuments and Museum Corporation will be opening its new exhibit, Lucayan's The Valor of the Vanquished. And an exclusive interview, we speak with the corporation's director, Christopher Curry, on the exhibition. Our Marlena Leonard reports.
October 12th is the opening of the new exhibit, Lucayan's The Valor of the Vanquished. That's a date AMMC Director Dr. Christopher Curry says was selected because of its historical significance.
October 12th, 1492 was the day when you had the collusion of cultures, the clashing of cultures when Columbus landed and encountered a whole other civilization that he didn't realize existed in the Bahamas. The Lucayans are an amazing people.
Understanding of the Bahamas' first inhabitants has often been limited as a result of them being completely wiped out from the country in the decades following Columbus's arrival, something the AMMC director also addresses.
October 12th, 2022 is our way of heralding the significance, the importance, the greatness, the genius of these amazing persons who no longer exist. They were wiped out by the Europeans. Of course, inaugurated with that arrival on October 12, 1492.
And Curry says visitors to the museum can expect a fully immersive experience into Lucayan life and times.
It's going to be interactive, it's going to be engaging, it's going to be hands-on. We're going to have a cacique cave that it's going to have colorful petroglyph art on the cave walls. It's going to have sound and audio. We're also going to have areas where you're going to have what we call experiential learning, where people will be able to touch and feel actual replicated artifacts. All right, so these are going to be areas that you would really love to see kids come and engage in. We're also going to have a little Lucayan village set up.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks, Marlena, and thank you for joining us tonight for Our News on behalf of the entire team. I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you back right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.